Hello, my name is Russell Myers, independent for U.S. President for 2024. So, before I start on this, let me apologize to anybody that has tried going on the website. Had some issues going on there. The blogging platform that I was using looked like it was working okay until I actually tried putting up blog posts, and then it wouldn't take them. So I've completely remodeled the site, and it is functioning the way I want it to now. If you've tried going on there and didn't see anything, well, you will now. Anyway, let's talk about stabilizing the economy. All right. So one of my policy proposals would be to end Wall Street as we know it. I realize the reactions to that statement will vary widely. To put it mildly, maniacally might be a better word. Some people may have just passed out, some blew an aneurysm, and some will cheer madly. Before anyone reacts too strongly in any one direction, let me explain this in some detail. If we look back through history, we see that every economic recession and depression for the past 150 years in the United States has had a basis in one thing: stock speculation. There are no exceptions. Some will bring up the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. That claim would not be accurate. The Depression began with the stock market crash of 1929. The Dust Bowl did not officially begin until 1930, 6 to 7 months after the Depression officially began. The Dust Bowl also ended before the Depression ended. So, in recent decades, we have seen the savings and loan crisis, the internet bubble in 2001, the housing crash and financial services crisis in 2008, 9, and onward. During 2020, more money went into failing banks and bailing out the failing banks and corporations more than workers. Since 2019, at least 1/4 of all the U.S. dollars in existence were created from thin air. It did not go to consumers, so where did it go? And why do I say 2019 instead of 2020? Because beginning in September of 2019, the Federal Reserve began creating currency in what is known as the repo market bailout. Many Americans do not know about this because it was done by powers granted to the Fed by Congress to act without congressional authorization. That means there was no direct legislation specific to this bailout at the time, and corporate media barely mentioned it, if they mentioned it at all. The purpose of this bailout has been the propping up of otherwise failing banks and corporations. This is one factor which has allowed the wealthy to become wealthier than ever and the stock market to skyrocket while Americans were standing in line for food banks, often with lines of cars stretching for miles. Keep in mind that in 2019, we were being told how well the economy was doing. Well, it was doing pretty well for the people at the top, not so much for you and I. I don't need to recount what happened after 2008, when corporations and banks were bailed out by the government, while over 5 million families had their homes foreclosed on, while millions of other Americans lost their life savings for the second time in under a decade. So, what is my proposal? The stock market is an archaic concept, which is no longer valid in a modern economy. There is no reason any investor should be able to purchase stock one time and be paid in perpetuity. Stocks can be passed from generation to generation in the same family. Thus, a stock purchased by one person will continue paying dividends 100 years later to the descendants of the original buyer of that stock. Likewise, each successive generation can use the dividends from the original stock to buy more stock and pass that down to the next generation. My proposal is converting all stocks into bonds. Bonds are loans, or more accurately, IOUs, issued by companies for the purpose of expansion or modernization. In other words, bonds have an express purpose, while stocks really do not. Both vehicles denote a debt by the company, but a stock pays in perpetuity, while a bond has a set return value and pays out one time at an amount equal to the purchase value plus an interest premium. The other difference between stocks and bonds is that stocks have a variable value, which can be manipulated via stock repurchases, splits, and many other methods. In addition, stockholders can make demands on a company, such as mass layoffs to decrease expenses, or suppressing wages, or cutting benefits, all to increase stock dividends. Bonds have a static value, and bondholders have far less power after the initial purchase. Bonds can be sold early on the bond market at a prorated value based on face value and maturity level. So by converting stocks into bonds, the bonds become a debt which only get paid one time instead of in perpetuity. Bondholders could trade in mature bonds for new bonds, increasing the collective value over time. It is less likely and less frequent that companies perform mass layoffs or reduce pay and benefits based on the demands of bondholders. The major effect of this would be a far more stable economy without the boom-bust cycle typically seen every 4 to 7 years, which consecutively get worse and worse. It would also mean that retirement accounts would be far more secure. Right now, a worker can go to work, hear the news that the stock market is collapsing during the day, and by the time they get home and check their retirement account, they find their entire life savings are gone. This is not an exaggeration. It has happened to millions of Americans in 2001 and 2008, 2009. Yes, this would mean that we would see a lot fewer overnight millionaires. It would mean the value of billionaires would be far more accurate accurately stated. This would also lead to lower inflation, as stockholders would no longer be demanding price increases for the sake of maximizing dividends. Let's be clear on a few points. What we need is a stable economy without the roller coaster ride which destroys so many lives. An economy which is predictable and consistent. Another thing to be clear on is that this very idea is an extremely dangerous one. By merely suggesting it, I could very well place my life in extreme danger. This concept puts me in direct opposition to the most dangerous people in world history, the stock market. Stock investors in some sectors are the most psychopathic people that have ever existed. They are willing to allow millions to die from hunger, lack of medical care, homelessness, incarceration, and yes, warfare. These are people who are completely willing to slaughter and displace millions for the sake of profit. Coming after me would be nothing to them. Yet, getting this idea out there where it gains traction decreases the danger somewhat. Not entirely. The danger would not even be entirely dissipated if it became a reality, because these are also vindictive people with no capacity for forgiveness. But none of that will stop me. What matters most is that the idea and awareness is propagated widely. I truly hope that more and more people pick up on this idea and continue talking about it until it becomes an undeniable movement which cannot be stopped. Many of us know that an economic collapse is coming, but have no idea what can be done to stop it. People need to really understand that capitalism can and should be controlled. If we do not take steps in that direction, our future is bleak. We will continue going through the boom-bust cycles with decreasing benefits for the many, as well as wealth continues flowing to the top at our expense at every level, including our own lives and the lives of our children. I'll take whatever risks are involved to make our futures more secure. Our only other choice is waiting and watching helplessly as capitalism ultimately comes to its inevitable collapse. The only radical thing about this idea is how rational it is. We cannot keep going the way we have been going and expect different results. That is the definition of insanity. All right, so share this video. Talk about these subjects. Get these ideas out there. All right? Even if I don't get your vote, I want the ideas out there. I want these to be widespread, mainstream. I want these ideas to be commonplace until they become a reality. All right? So, again, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, donate $1 a month or whatever you can to help expand the campaign. It's still just getting started as I record this, but, let's expand this. Let's make it bigger. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day, evening, whatever it is to you.